Hi everyone, my name is Jaideep. I'm originally from India and here at the University of Michigan. I am in the PhD program in comparative literature and I am currently in my second year of PhD. Uh, I work on how modernity was imagined across South Asia and the Middle East in literary terms, particularly from within Islamicate cultures, as well as specifically in response to colonialisms. So those are some of the terms that I'm broadly interested in. I'm particularly interested in the period between late 19th and early 20th century. And in terms of languages, I work with Urdu, Hindi, Persian, and I'm currently trying to expand to Arabic by learning it. So I chose University of Michigan primarily among the many reasons, primarily because it also has very strong South Asia scholarship. And unlike many other universities in the US, there is no South Asia studies program, but rather it is spread out. Work on South Asia is spread out across a range of disciplines, which gives very useful kind of edge of interdisciplinarity to thinking about South Asia, which is very productive for me, and I hope to learn from it. Um, University of Michigan also affords um, very useful intersections between Middle East studies and South Asia scholarship, which is also very useful for me and something that I'm interested in it. It also has a lot of resources to work on Islamic literatures, and not just literatures, but also art and the larger aesthetic paradigm related to Islamic cultures. Specifically, my department, which is the comparative literature department, also encourages interdisciplinary work as well as work across regions and languages. And provides also with a lot of necessary things to do that kind of work, such as funds for language training, opportunities for language training, as well as various study abroad opportunities, which are necessary if you have to work across multiple locations and multiple literary cultures. In that sense, so those are some of the reasons because of which I chose University of Michigan. So talking in terms of advantages, I think there's a high degree of professionalization, specifically around the study of languages and literatures in US institutions, but also generally in terms of academic spaces, which is very useful and which is something that I have been trying to learn from very actively. Um, Apart from that, I think US institutions also afford a certain kind of cosmopolitanism, perhaps, for the lack of a better word, yeah, while doing academic work, which is not, unfortunately, immediately available in a university in the global south, perhaps, at least in my experience. So here, I think one advantage has been that I have been able to meet with people who work with similar ideas, who are interested in similar ideas, but come from a range of different contexts and come with a range of different kind of disciplinary trainings as well as different kind of archives, which has helped me in thinking more sharply and more comparatively about the kind of questions that I'm interested in. So I think those have been some two major advantages. In terms of challenges, I think one abiding and almost ubiquitous challenge for me has been the Eurocentrism of comparative literature as a discipline, which I encounter both specifically in terms of the things that I have been reading as a part of my doctoral program, but also generally, it seems from my understanding of comparative literature as a discipline in the US. I say this particularly in terms of theoretical writings, and a lot of work that is being done around theory or being done at abstract levels has been particularly centered on the US, or I think parts of Western Europe, and it kind of doesn't seem to leave those boundaries. And for someone who's working on literatures from the global south, the problems become sort of a lot. There are a lot of problems because of this kind of eurocentrism. um, Theory becomes something which either can be applied on these other locations, which is problematic, or something that you have to constantly work against, which can kind of take away from the richness of your own sources and contexts, or something that you have to learn, and which may have no relation or bearing on things that you yourself are interested in, or contexts that you come from, um, and where these theories might not have any kind of applicability, or any particularly organic relationship to those contexts. So yeah, I think particularly the very deep Eurocentrism that I keep encountering, Euro and I guess, I don't know, American centrism or US centrism perhaps would be the more appropriate thing to say. Um, I think the US centrism and Eurocentrism of complete as a discipline generally, and theory associated theoretical work being done in comparative literature more specifically, I think has been one of the major disadvantages that I have encountered. So over the past year, for a major part, I was located in Ann Arbor itself, but my sister, who also is a grad student in Los Angeles, was visiting me. Uh, then for some time, I managed to go to India during the winter break for a month. And then after that, I was in Los Angeles for a while, and now I have been back in Ann Arbor for a month, perhaps. So I've been in a lot of locations, although a major part of it was in Ann Arbor. I think, thankfully, COVID-19 hasn't really affected my academics in specific terms. Like, for example, people who had to do archival work or people who had to do field work, I think they had taken their work had taken a much bigger hit. And since I wasn't at any of those stages during this year. Uh, my academic work wasn't severely affected. However, the stress of being in a country like abroad has been immense during such a difficult, unprecedented time. Uh, and that has really been affecting my productivity, my level of thinking, my engagement, and everything. And apart from that, I think just I think something that perhaps a lot of us are going through, which is staying at home and working has been hard, and has also affected productivity levels. Apart from that, I think um, the understanding of productivity and the expectation of productivity generally around us has been very problematic for me, as I'm sure it has been for several others. And I think those are some of the ways in which COVID has had an effect on my studies, I think. I think this is something that I have already mentioned, which is that I went to India in December. And I think that would be both an obstacle that I overcame and something that I would count as a win, because yeah, the time was very difficult, um, and I would have really wanted to. This is the first time I have been outside since I came to the US. That was the first time I have been outside India, and I really wanted to go back home, and I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I kind of pushed through it and managed to go, because if I had earlier decided to go this summer, the situation in India as I speak is becoming worse and worse by the day. So yeah, I don't think it will be possible for me to go during the summer. So I'm really glad that I went in the winter, and yeah, I guess that's one thing that I would count as a win. Yeah, so those were my responses, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my experience of being a PhD student at the University of Michigan. Thank you.